to destroy someone via cannibalism is to ask the god of destruction, Baal, for permission to destroy. It's a question wrapped in the word cannibal. Can I, Baal? You're asking Baal for permission to destroy. Cannibalism is not just a physical thing that takes place where people are literally devouring the same likeness of flesh for physical consumption, but is also on a spiritual level, a social level too. And it takes place in the social media realm across all platforms. You run into Baal, whose purpose is to get all of the destroyers, the true destroyers, to destroy one another. And he's using a subnet known as journalism. What we are allowed to do and what we are qualified to do are not really the same thing in the realm of social media. You're allowed to say and talk about anything, but depending on what you talk about and how you talk about it, it can cost you. The thing to understand is we're not really journalists, so to speak, as much as we are creators of content. A creator of content is an entertainer, and don't look down on the word entertainer, because an entertainer is an entertainer. It's just a way of saying that you are officially one who can actually cast a spell. You're an entertainer. These are platforms for entertainment. These are platforms for magic, platforms for faith, platforms for magic, platforms for power, but not necessarily a platform for journalism. And what happens is you'll get a group of journalists or who are proposing to be journalists, and what they'll do is they'll talk about one topic or an individual, and what will happen is across this myriad of different people taking a hand at journalism to discuss a certain topic, they may run into some friction between one another, and then it goes from covering the story to covering personal beefs between and amongst the journalist or amongst the proposed journalists. So you have a form of cannibalism that takes place, because instead of eating up the story, which is initially what a newscaster does, or anchor, they become unanchored and their ship goes adrift and gets carried away by the winds of conflict and, swept away by the seas of discord and division, all because the wrong occupation was assumed on a platform that doesn't necessarily cater to that outlet. Social media is not a news world. It's a world where news also exists, but it's not a platform for news. It's a platform for content creators. It's a platform for a character study. It's a platform for the collection of data for the new heaven that the AI will build based on the information that is recorded. So to be a god in this new heaven, you have to understand what the demons are doing now that they've basically all should be here now from CERN, or crossed over from whatever portals, whatever stars and black holes they came from. Let's look at Beelzebub, also known as Beelzebub. In Phoenician, he goes by the name Beelzebub. What Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, does is he eats what's destroyed, the ashes of what is. So when Beelzebub shows up, you're going to see that this Lord of Flies is going to come where there is a carcass, where there is waste, where there is a dead subject, a dead field, a dead area, where there is a corpse, so to speak, where the cannibalism is done and the flies are there to pick up the pieces to eat the scraps. It's going to be the scraps or whatever is left behind. So you can see that Beelzebub has come and gone many times throughout society. Look at how many things have been destroyed, devoured, and then rebuilt as something else. These are designs from destruction in order to bring about a renewal. So with this cannibalism, can I, Baal, have permission to destroy one another? Don't consult Baal. Don't consult the destructive forces because it's going to put you in the destructive category. This is a collection of data. And with collection comes categorization and being put in a certain bracket, what we sometimes call being shadow banned. See, our shadow will be cast in the digital world, whatever our light body is spiritually. Whatever our light body is spiritually, that shadow is cast into the digital world. So your shadow will let you know whether or not you're in the cave or outside of the cave. Social media is kind of like a cave. It's a view of the real world, but through a lens, through a box, through a rectangle. It's not the world around you in its full panoramic view with all of the sensory input therein, which is what VR is taking care of. And that's another topic to touch on, because that society hasn't necessarily been formed yet for a commentary spiritually on the comings and goings of making that machine work well, if it's indeed to be a machine that's manufactured and oiled here. Right now is more so being talked about and dealt with celebrities, but not necessarily the common person yet, if at all. But for now, where we are on this level, we have to deal with the cannibalism that exists here, and we have to eat the story and not one another. We have to chew on the information and not one another. What happens is sometimes two parties can disagree on information, and then they start chewing on their reputation. Instead of chewing on the information, they start chewing on one another's reputation. And the next thing you know, they're doxing each other. They're bringing up dirt. They're bringing up clicks. Now people are sided. Now you have comments jumping off crazy in the lives. Now you have people's channels getting flagged, people getting reported. You have channels being shut down, all because this realm of entrainment does not cover journalism. Journalism is already taken care of by the news anchors that have been doing news for however long they've been doing it for. There's already established people that cover this already. The realm of news, the realm of anchoring. So if you're going to be anchored at anything, it has to be a form of entertainment or entertainment that really spawns from you. And it's okay, you can give a commentary on things that are happening in society, I suppose, but you just have to be careful with public opinion when it comes to the subject of social cannibalism. You don't want to necessarily put one side down or another. You just want to put the information out there. You don't want to polarize or push a person in either direction. If they want to get a certain result, then you can tell them where the arrows can lead, but you don't want to tell them what they have to be. You don't want to tell them what they better be doing, what they should do, what they ought to do, what you would do if you were them. Don't do any of these things, because they're going to invite a whole nother legion of demons into your circle that we'll talk about later. But for now, just understand that, if this is the cliphotic back half of the Sephirotic tree, not the tree of life, but the tree of death in a dying world that's being reborn, then we have to acknowledge a sphere known as Gajil, because the godhood is changing in a way, or the way God is expressed is being changed in a way. So one wand is considered like an axis that the world is controlled under, and that axis is now broken. Those ashes in that old world that falls apart, that is what Beelzebub eats. He and his flies, they feast on that world. And the ashes from that world is where you build the new world. And then you start to step in from universe A to universe B, and we're right back to Thomiel all over again. Going to Spears, I believe 10 and 11. 10 being Gajil, 11 being Thomiel. These demons, they can only wreak havoc if you don't understand what they are and how they operate. I'm not here to say that you are to believe or disbelieve in any form of a demon, but just what the names and things represent in your reading and in your hearing, you can work with that.